Hello, this is Ifan from the Black Room, and I'm going to be reviewing NCMI from yesterday. But I also want to address a more important issue or a more important question, which I've gotten from time to time, which is how do I find the setups before they go? How come it seems like every time that I find something it's already gone, and then you can identify a previous setup before the play took off? And some of that I think is just hindsight bias that's inherent in us, and that I can't really fix for you, or I don't really have a suggestion for that. But let's say you know what you're looking for, and you can objectively say, oh, I wouldn't have done that, or I would have done that, regardless of how it played out. So you know exactly what your setup is, you know what you're looking for, but a lot of times you see those perfect setups, or you see the great setups after they're already gone. So there are two reasons that might be the case. Number one, you might be scanning in the wrong place, or so you might have just a small gainers and losers list, and a lot of times when you look at them, the gainers have already moved up a lot, and you say, well, why didn't I see this long setup before? And the decliners have already moved a lot, and you say, oh, I wish I was short this, there was even an entry, right? So it may be that you're not scanning in the right place, or your scanning tools are limited. Number two, the reason that you might be missing them is that you don't have enough screen real estate, so you don't have enough charts to monitor all the charts that you want to. You don't have enough screen space, you don't have enough thumbnails to keep an eye on them, so then you end up finding them in the morning, and then when they set up 30 an hour, maybe even hours later, you're not aware of it anymore, and so you miss it because you say, oh, I knew I was supposed to watch this one, but I forgot. Okay, so the first thing would be to improve your scanning tools, to hone them in a bit. For me, I do use decliners, gainers from a custom universe, and then within that universe I scan the gaps. So I have a scanner that just calculates a percentage from the previous day's close to today's open, and so then I filter out based on the size of the gap that I want, and that depends on the size of the current market gap. Most days market doesn't gap much. The market gap's more than 1%. That's usually an outlier, so then I'll have to change some of the parameters. And then the second thing, screen real estate, that's up to you how much you need, how many things you want to watch, how many things you can keep track of without being overwhelmed. Okay, so that's kind of up to you. The Black Room does help with both these things. Number one, we get a pre-market gaps list, and then the gaps list gets finished a few minutes after the open, so we know what's moving, what's gapping, what's most likely to have momentum. And then number two, the moderators are constantly monitoring ideas, monitoring the charts. We all have at least 4 screens with thumbnails on them, so you have all 4 of the moderators monitoring their systems and giving you the ideas. So I wanted to go over this NCMI because I think this helps to, illuminate that issue. Okay, so first, the NCMI was a gap up on the daily chart. Okay, we actually didn't have this on the gaps list until a few minutes after the open. This one came up on my scanner. Okay, so as soon as it came up, a few minutes after the open, I said NCMI add to the gaps list. Okay, so we add that to the gaps list. It took off. You could have played it as a 2-minute high-low. We did a very similar play on the Fran the morning before. This is the 2-minute high-low, so just over this high-low. The day before we did Fran, very similar gap up here, gap up, previous days of selling. And on the 2-minute chart we did this play here, high-low, same thing. Okay, but on the NCMI I didn't do it. It was a little bit more thin, so I wanted to just let it play out a little bit, but worked pretty well there off of that play there on the 2-minute high-low. Okay, so we had that initially and didn't play it, just kept it on a chart and wanted to monitor it. Okay, and finally we got this buy setup and we started to base. I thought, okay, we're good now. Okay, so let's go ahead and call it. So you can see once we got this, it showed me a a chance for a secondary entry here, which is the first entry moved up, showed that there's some resistance in this area, and then pulled back from it. So you can see I called it around here because I knew where I wanted to get in, and if this area held, then we had our stop. Okay, so you can see 744 called it, right? We were going to play it long. Okay, but as it came in here, I think this might have gone 975. When I was watching it, it went to 97 on the bid, so it took out the stop 798, right? So it took out the stop, or looked like it was going to, so had to cancel it. Okay, and once we canceled it, oh yeah, so canceled at 806. Yeah, so around here on this dip. Okay, so canceled and then continued to base. Okay, so then I thought, okay, it didn't. We can still use this 98, and now if it triggers again, I called it here, 842. Okay, at this time, looking still okay, right? Like we can play over 806, same numbers. Okay, so you see it's been an hour now. I called the first one, hour later, called the next one, right? Still hasn't triggered. Okay, now we got to cancel because took out the stop. Okay, now I don't want to play this long, or at least I don't know where to put my stop because my stop was going to go at the bottom of this space. Okay, so now we cancel it again. Okay, then it popped back up, started to recover. Okay, again, now we get a call. Okay, so now we have the setup here, and now it's off the 15-minute chart. 801 by 794, because now this bottoming tail is where we have to put the stop, because that's where support is. On the hourly here, we have a pullback. Okay, so now we're lined up on the hourly, right? We have a series of lower highs, and then once the break of that lower high, 801, and then we can play. Okay, so you can see it took almost 2.5 hours from the time that I said I am ready to play, I am ready to call it, I will manage it for you, right? So on and so forth, right? And then finally triggers, right? Triggers here. And then when it triggers, I give you the targets. End of day, high of day, ended up being the same target, one and the same. I thought those would be two separate targets, ended up being the same. We took a little bit here on this pop. Once it popped up to 815, we trailed some, and then we took the rest just at the end of the day. Just had to take it at 818. Okay, so that was the NCMI. So even if you didn't have the NCMI on your radar, maybe it didn't come across your scanner, and maybe after this started to dip down, you stopped watching it, right? But that's the benefits of the room itself. The room can also help remedy those issues. If you can't, if you don't have a developed scanner that you really like at the moment, or if you don't have enough screen real estate, right, you don't have a platform that you like to monitor all these charts, then the room can also help, right? So you don't have to fix everything on your own. That's what the room is here for too, because we will be on it, we will be persistent, and we will be here from open to close. Okay, so I just wanted to go over this trade. Had to call it 3 times to finally get this play to work. And we got about 1.5 hours on this. If we had just waited and stuck with the end of the day, that would have been 2. But had a little bit of a pop with volume. I thought I was going to trail some. That way it's locked in. Sometimes that's a mistake, but glad it worked. You can see we got some continuation in the morning here. I didn't have any left though, so I didn't decide to hold it. But yeah, that was the review of the NCMI. And so not just kind of the benefits of these individual plays, but day in and day out, just the benefits of improving the ideas that you're looking at, improving the number of ideas that you can monitor. That's some of the benefits of the Black Room. So if you find that useful, come join us in the Black Room. Be happy to trade with you, and I'll talk to you in the next video.